Let's drop the pretense. A few days ago, Israel's finance minister Bezalel Smotrich stood before a crowd and said the quiet bit out loud. The fighting will not end until hundreds of thousands of Gazans leave and Syria is partitioned, not de-escalated, not demilitarized, partitioned. This isn't about terrorism. It isn't about defense. This is about erasure of nations, of people, of memory itself. Yesterday, Israeli warplanes bombed the area surrounding the presidential palace in Damascus. A direct strike on the seat of symbolic authority meant not just to wound, but to humiliate, to show that no institution is sacred, no boundary respected, no sovereignty recognized, and it was only the latest. Earlier in April, Israeli jets tore once again through Syrian airspace, raining down missiles on everything from military installations to residential streets. In the south, near the ancient city of Noah, Israeli ground forces moved in, killing 9 civilians. And this wasn't just anywhere. Noah, birthplace of Imam al-Nawawi, one of the most venerated scholars in Islamic history. You don't just bomb Noah. You take aim at a legacy, a living, breathing cultural inheritance that spans continents and centuries. Not far off, you'll find Tel el-Jabia, where Caliph Umar once received the keys to Jerusalem. That's not just soil, it's sacred. This region, Huran, has given the world jurists, scholars, historians, Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya, Ibn Kathir, names uttered in mosques and lecture halls from Morocco to Malaysia. It's where the Battle of Yarmouk turned back the Byzantines and changed the course of history. So no, this isn't just a border skirmish. It's a full-blown assault, not just on sovereignty, but on cultural continuity. Since Assad's fall in December 2024, Israel's been hammering Syria with airstrikes, military bases, air defense systems, infrastructure leveled. One day after Assad scurried off to Moscow, Israel declared plans for a so-called sterile security zone inside Syrian territory. 400 square kilometers of occupied land, more than the entire Gaza Strip. And now Israeli troops are stationed on Mount Hermon. Defense Minister Israel Katz declared, "We will remain." No exit strategy, no time limit, just permanent presence, de facto annexation. And of course, we're told it's all about protecting the Druze. Yes, the minority defense gambit, the oldest trick in the colonial handbook. Never mind that the Druze inside Israel, the ones who serve in the IDF, who've buried their dead under Israeli flags, are still treated as second-class citizens in the so-called Jewish state. Their villages unrecognized, their homes demolished, their identity legislated into silence. But in Syria, suddenly they're in the center of moral concern. Convenient, isn't it? Let's call it for what it is: cynical exploitation wrapped in the language of humanitarianism. And this is only the beginning, because Israel's leaders aren't even bothering to hide their ambitions anymore. The vision for Syria, not reform, not even regime change, disappearance. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Saar said it plainly: the idea of a single sovereign Syria is unrealistic. And then came Rami, Israeli lawyer, military lecturer, and walking Freudian slip. He said this, and I quote, "Syria is an artificial state that has disintegrated. It has never had a real right to exist. It is not an Arab state and certainly not a nation state of anyone. Erdogan supports a united Syria. Israel's interest is completely the opposite. Israel can and must cause Syria to disappear. In its place will be 5 cantons. Israel must deepen its grip on the interior of Syria." There you have it. This is not mere rhetoric, it is policy. This isn't about security, it's about cartography by conquest. The plan: break Syria into pieces. A Kurdish canton in the northeast, a Druze protectorate in the south, an Alawite enclave hugging the coast, and scattered Sunni territories stripped of power, autonomy, and voice. Why? Because a fractured Syria can't have sovereignty. A powerless Syria can't resist the occupation of its lands, and a voiceless Syria won't defend itself, let alone Palestine. This is not peace, it is paralysis. This is not protection, it is permanent control. And it doesn't end at Syria. Israel's sights are shifting north to Turkey. Why? Because Ankara still supports a united Syria, and that makes them inconvenient. The message of the strikes near Nawa wasn't just for Damascus, it was for Erdogan. This is our sphere now. And how has Syria's new leadership responded? With restraint. President Ahmed al-Shara has tiptoed around escalation. He's talked about upholding the 1974 separation agreement. He's even floated the idea of normalizing ties with Israel, joining the so-called Abraham Accords, if the conditions are right. In exchange, more airstrikes, more ultimatums, and a demand to silence all Palestinian political activity on Syrian soil. Israel's position is unmistakable. There is no room for Syrian sovereignty. A nation reeling from decades of war is told it must sacrifice not only its independence, but its alliances, its memory, its voice. Yet something is stirring in Syria. The funeral of the 9 slain in Nawa became a procession of defiance. Across the country, Syrians poured into the streets. The fatigue of war is giving way to a new resolve. A generation that once lost hope is finding it again, not in governments, but in the land itself. Because Syria is not merely a state, it is a civilization. It is the cradle of empires, the graveyard of invaders. It endured the Crusades, repelled colonialism, and rose against tyranny. Its wounds are many, but its spirit endures. The enemy may be powerful, but the land remembers. Israel's strategy, for all its calculation, is built on a fatal illusion that a nation can be erased by redrawing maps and dropping bombs. But Syria is not just territory. It is Nawa and Yarmouk, Ibn Kathir and Saladin, Sultan Basha al-Atrash and Khalid ibn al-Walid. It is history made flesh, dignity engraved in the soil. Syria will not disappear. It will not fragment quietly, and its people, however battered, are awakening. What Israel has unleashed in southern Syria is not submission, it is remembrance. For Syrians and Palestinians, the struggle is shared, the wound is won, and history, long witness to the rise and fall of empires, remains on their side.